Flies in the shed? Not on my watch. Oh, man. Ladies and gentlemen, the moment has finally arrived for me to chat about the sound shed. In this 5-part series, I'm going to walk you through the entire journey of bringing this listening room to life, sharing every single detail that I can from inception to completion. This project, while taking the good part of a year, has offered me valuable insights that I am eager to pass on to you. So, as we dive into this series together, I hope that my experiences can serve as a resource of wisdom for anyone considering a similar undertaking. But before we delve into all of the intricacies of part 1, let me provide a breakdown that awaits you across these 5 episodes. In this video, the first installment of this series, we delve into the foundational aspects of the shed's design and original concept. It's going to be a long video, so get comfortable. We're going to explore the vision of the project, outline our design objectives, and even delve into each step leading up to the shed's completion, setting the stage for the framework that follows. Moving on to the second video, we're going to shift our focus to the critical process of measuring the empty room using room mode calculators and REW. Emphasizing the significance of these measurements, we also present tangible examples of the room sound in its untreated state. The third video is dedicated to the crucial topic of absorption, unpacking its importance, discussing how it was integrated into the shed, and providing sound clip illustrations that allow you to experience the transformative impact from an empty, untreated space to one enhanced with absorption. Continuing our exploration together, the fourth video takes on the realm of diffusion. Here we elaborate on its significance, detail its strategic incorporation into the shed, and once again allow you to experience the results through sound clips, demonstrating the difference that diffusers have on the listening experience. In the culmination of this series, our 5th and final video brings everything full circle. We demonstrate the tangible effects of the treated room compared to its initial untreated state, underscoring the pivotal role of comprehensive room treatment. This conclusive video serves as a compelling testament to the transformative power of intentional acoustics in a space. And with a warm welcome back to New Record Day, that's exactly what we're going to do. Shortly after embarking on my journey with the Soundshed, ATS Acoustics reached out, expressing their appreciation for my videos and proposing a collaboration on projects related to room acoustics. Recognizing the significance of optimizing the Soundshed, we devised a strategic plan using a lot of ATS Acoustics products to help control the space that you guys are going to be hearing for yourself. ATS has played a pivotal role in bringing this series to fruition and is proudly sponsoring this video. Whether you're contemplating the creation of a space similar to the Soundshed, revamping your listening area, or seeking to enhance your current room, I cannot emphasize enough the importance of acoustic treatment. Collaborating with ATS for the treatment they provided has proven to be one of the wisest decisions I've ever made in a decade of reviewing high-fidelity gear. If you find yourself in need of assistance or have any inquiries, feel free to reach out to them via email or phone call. All the links that you need to ATS will be provided down below in the description box. And again, a massive thanks to ATS for sponsoring this series. Just to the side of our house, behind the carport, we had 2 massive 40-foot shipping containers that came with the property. That area, while occupied by these containers, seemed to be the best location to break ground. After some conversations, we cleared out all the storage, and over the weekend, the containers were pulled out, leaving us with a massive area to begin the build process. Envisioning a separate space detached from the home prompted a series of decisions regarding the choice of materials, specifically whether to construct it with the use of wood or metal. As Sarah and I were weighing the options, the realization dawned on me that, in my particular case, a harmonious blend of both materials seemed to resonate well with the overall vision that I had stuck inside my head. In the surrounding area here in Texas, many sheds are predominantly constructed from metal, so we wanted to benefit from the expertise of numerous contractors adept in metalwork. At the same time, the decision between the cost of wood versus metal pretty much felt like a coin toss, with both materials presenting viable and appealing possibilities. Following a couple of different meetings that we had with a contractor that we ended up trusting, we dug into design aspirations and fine-tuned color specifics for the shed. The decision was made, and it was time to initiate the next phase, laying down a massive cement slab. Upon the completion of the cement slab, the robust iron beams of the shed swiftly took shape, and within a week or two, the foundations of a new space were laid out. During the completion of the details, such as the inclusion of windows, one unwavering design principle stood out for me: the pursuit of perfect symmetry. I was resolute in my decision to avoid any elements, be it windows, doors, or alcoves. Opting for a door dead center just behind the listening position also aligned with this principle. I recognized the potential acoustic vulnerabilities associated with the door placement. Placing the door in the middle negated the risk of hearing leakage from either side of the shed, like to my left or to my right, which would have made me lose my freaking mind. At this point, we were done with the core concept of the building, a massive metal shed that externally measured 30 feet deep, 20 feet wide, and 12 feet high up to the sidewalls, with an A-frame that reached up to 14 feet. Once the building structure was complete, the immediate focus shifted to addressing one primary objective: transforming the future home of New Record Day into an efficient and comfortable workspace. Anticipating the installation of a mini-split air conditioner, it's that guy back there, I was keen on maximizing the building's overall efficiency. After careful consideration, I made the decision to opt for closed cell spray foam insulation. Well. Look at that. Dang. We are moving. She is foamed out. Calm down. Relax. I feel your anger and your hatred towards me right now. So look, I am totally aware of the common perception of closed cell foam being less than ideal for acoustics, and before you unleash a colorful commentary on its shortcomings, I agree with you. I know, I totally agree with you. But it's crucial to grasp that in envisioning this building, I saw the steel structure as merely a candy wrapper around something entirely distinct. While there was a sacrifice in terms of internal space, my shed design always revolved around creating a room within a room. And this, folks, is where the strategy of using both metal and wood came into play. Now, I'm going to tell you that the cost of the spray foam was relatively high. I think we paid about $7,800 to get this thing foamed out. It was a lot of money, but I can tell you with great confidence, it was worth every single penny. The sound shed now maintains temperatures beyond my initial expectations, rendering it remarkably comfortable to work in, regardless of the external weather conditions. The weather outside doesn't matter. The internal temperature of this room, it doesn't really move hardly at all. I haven't had one electric bill more than $30 to run everything all the time. It's crazy. So folks, with that, we had the roots, the foundation, the beginning of an idea complete, and with phase one being a closed chapter, I started a new YouTube channel called The Sound Shed. partnering up with some really good friends here in Texas.
5 hours later.
We made full use of the, I almost miss it, the natural reverb of the shed being offered up. And we made a number of recordings that are definitely worth checking out if you haven't. It sounded so beautiful. Watching these videos will also give you guys a better idea of what this place looked like and sounded like before we tackled framing, and I am so grateful that we have this archive to remind us of what this place was before we took the next step. When daydreaming about the shed and imagining what I wanted to do with it, I posted a video about double wall assemblies, channel strips, and mass-loaded vinyl. At that time, I was a fish lost at sea, regurgitating what I'd imagine was best practices for soundproofing, and even more, this is the important part, guessing at my needs before even knowing what my needs actually were. So, let's take a step back and help you guys out who might be tackling a shed like mine, because man, I learned a lot about what was actually needed versus pie in the sky thinking, throwing money in every direction that I could. So as I already mentioned, after completing the construction and spray foam of the shed, I utilized the space for recording several musical performances. Through these sessions, sound levels often reached 80 to 90 decibels in the shed. Recognizing the need for insight into the external impact of this sound, I was smart to do this. I grabbed my decibel meter and I stepped outside to have a listen. While musicians played within, I could definitely hear sound content just beyond the door. It was loud. However, at a distance of 10 to 15 feet, the sound coming from the shed took a serious drop, moving farther away to 20 to 30 feet, which isn't even as far as my next neighbor. Anything that I heard outside was pretty dang sporadic. With the decibel meter in my hand, it was registering surrounding noises around me louder than what was coming from the shed. Even without working on the next phase of the shed, there was no way in the world that music being played in there was going to bother or disrupt my neighbors or anyone else around me. Many of you folks were curious about what I was going to do with the floor in the shed. Should I suspend it? Should I isolate it? Maybe lay down some cork or throw down some hardwood planks? You know, I was tempted to do all of the above, and I thought about it quite a bit, but you know what? I decided just to hire my buddy to grind the cement to achieve an aggregate look, and I called it a day. In our upcoming third video, when we chat about absorption, I'm going to elaborate on the floor and we'll talk about the pros and cons of what I did and why I did it. With the primary design objective centered being around achieving absolute symmetry for the shed, leaving the sidewalls devoid of any elements that might disrupt that harmony, I confronted the challenge of creating a functional entry and exit point. I had some options that came from my contractor with the shed, and the solution materialized in the form of a substantial 7-foot by 4-foot door. However, it is important to note that the door, despite its advantages, it's a big freaking door, it's also kind of mostly a little bit hollow, which is not great for acoustics at all. In a detailed video that I already made, I delved into the intricacies of transforming this kind of problematic door into its present state. The integration of diffusers, now securely attached to the door with PL Premium adhesive, has become a permanent feature of the shed. Additionally, I applied GR Research No-Res to enhance the door's aesthetic appeal and cut down on any door vibrations and resonances. And if that's not enough, all of the open air cavities that make this door hollow are now meticulously filled with kitty litter. Man, audiophiles are freaking lunatics. So, having successfully completed phase 1, the next step involved ordering supplies for framing and constructing the internal room within the sound shed. To figure out the necessary lumber that I needed, I relied on framing calculators that allowed me to input the structure size and stud distance, whether 16 inches or 24 inches. Oh, for those wondering, I decided to use 24-inch center-to-center spacing throughout the shed. Many studios and music-centric rooms use 24-inch spacing to reduce the mechanical structure points of the wood touching wood and or drywall. And I used 2x4 pressure-treated lumber for my bottom plates and kiln-dried standard 2x4s for the wall assembly. One quick tip. For those who happen to struggle with mathematics as much as I do and want things to be as quick and painless as possible, this little fella, known as the Stud Master, was a lifesaver. Simply slide your studs into this metal frame and presto, a perfect 24 inches each and every single time. Having the luxury of time on my side allowed me to leverage my OCD tendencies to my advantage, ensuring every wall was straight and every cut precise. I didn't touch one hammer for the entire assembly of the walls, and I invested in this bad mother flower, the Metabo HPT nailing gun. Not once did it jam up on me, run out of battery juice halfway through the day, or give me an ounce of trouble. Having framed each wall assembly individually, the task of hoisting these substantial structures into position presented a unique challenge. Combining my dominant left brain tendencies with a creative approach, I adopted a strategy reminiscent of ancient engineering principles, channeling the spirit of Egyptian ingenuity. While assistance was definitely enlisted for the larger walls, I also devised a method involving the attachment of 2x4 boards to each end of the assembly. Gradually, inch by inch, I leveraged this makeshift system, raising the walls with a measured and patient approach. As they ascended, I continued affixing new stilts, as I fondly referred to them, until, with persistent effort, the walls gracefully reached their designated positions. In the process of tying all the wall assemblies together, I got creative again, and I came up with a pretty cool idea. Using a makeshift spacer on the ground from some leftover scraps that I had, I maintained consistent spacing between the walls, adjusting it gradually as I progressed throughout the shed. Employing tie-downs anchored to the walls, I effortlessly brought together massive wall sections weighing hundreds, if not thousands of pounds. Methodically, inch by inch, I maneuvered this spacer down the length of the shed, refining and tightening every single assembly. For those who caught my video detailing an idea involving strips of carpet padding between the studs and drywall, here is the update. I ultimately abandoned the concept, having a change of heart literally on the day that the drywall installation began. So here's the thing. The ceiling drywall, which I did, just about killed me. And when it came to the walls, I called a crew in. I was done. And it was time for a crew to take over where I left off. I didn't have it in me. And look, don't get me wrong. I enjoyed every aspect of this construction process. I got to admit though, dealing with drywall, not my thing. And it's no walk in the park. Upon the crew's assessment of the project, they expressed reservations about this creative idea and achieving a flush finish with the walls when it's compressed against this carpet padding. And I didn't think that through, like, yeah, you're going to control some resonances with this, right? But your walls aren't going to be flush. All right, the ceiling, a critical aspect of this project. I recognized the unique potential of an A-frame design in the shed, and it offered a number of creative possibilities. Initially, I entertained the idea of framing the room using a substantial beam up at the top and then following the roof angle. I would have gotten some more space out of it, but considering my practical limitations as someone with no prior experience in this domain, I abandoned the idea of intricate framing techniques. Instead, I opted for manufactured I-joists spanning the entire width of the shed. So yeah, I lost a little bit of overhead space, and I guess that's a drawback, but it presented one significant advantage. By having the roof straight across these I-joists, it allowed me to predict and calculate room modes in this rectangular room. The 20-foot I-joists arrived, and with a bit of trimming for each one, they seamlessly reached the ends of my side walls. Setting them up individually proved to be a little bit tricky, but with some ingenuity, I managed to balance one end atop a wall while I carefully ascended a ladder, and once in position, I secured each I-joist to the top plate, aligning them with the studs below, swiftly assembling the skeleton of the shed's roof. Before moving on, I took the extra step of cutting strips of leftover OSB, using them to stiffen the joists together. This additional measure aimed to prevent any kind of rolling of the I-joists as I continued with the construction, ensuring a stable and robust framework for the ceiling itself. A lot of you guys have asked about this. With the framing phase successfully completed, my focus shifted to the electrical options of the sound shed. With a fair bit of confidence gained from the framing process, I took on the wiring task of all of the outlets in the shed. Now, with the sound shed detached from the house, I had choices for powering it. One option was to draw power from the house using a sub panel. Now, the other option, I could completely disconnect from the house grid altogether and establish new power exclusive for the sound shed. I'm an audiophile. I'm crazy and recognizing the crucial role of power in all things audio. And considering the fact that I'm an LLC and the power is tax deductible when tax time comes around, this decision was a no-brainer. Now, when it came to wiring, I used standard 12x2 Romex. And while the thought of using 10 gauge did cross my mind, I decided it was overkill and the 12 gauge was going to be just fine. However, I did choose 20 amp circuits on the panel and breakers. Also, I made the decision to assign every single low-level outlet in the shed to its own breaker. Simply put, I wanted the assurance that every outlet had its dedicated run back to home or the panel, eliminating potential issues from shared devices. This was probably overkill, but the peace of mind was worth the extra investment in Romex. Now, as for the higher placed outlets in the shed, though it might seem unconventional, this setup has proven to be an absolute game changer for my video production. Drawing from my experience on YouTube, strategically placing studio lighting up high will streamline setup time, and it makes lighting less of a hassle for me. The only shared outlets in the shed are the ones that are up high. The left side is all tied together on one breaker, and the right side is connected to another breaker. And no, even though I am completely insane, I wasn't fixated on fancy pants audiophile outlets either. Commercial 20 amp outlets from Pass and Seymour met my requirements without breaking the bank, and that's what I decided to use. For the shed's insulation, I chose Rockwool Safe and Sound over the standard pink insulation. While there is nothing wrong with the pink stuff, I decided to invest a little bit more for the Rockwool throughout the shed. When installing the insulation, whether it's Rockwool or fiberglass, don't be a dodo brain. I would definitely recommend wearing long sleeves, pants, gloves, and a suitable filter to prevent any particles from entering your lungs. Also, no, I didn't do anything fancy or overstuff the walls or pour sand in my walls. When I started this, one of the guys was like, "You should pour sand in your walls." I was like, it's a great idea. I don't see anything going wrong down the road with a bunch of sand in my walls. I'm dying. As I progressed with installing drywall on the ceiling, it was a breeze to install rock wool into the bays, working my way from the back to the front. The material proved to be very user-friendly, easy to cut, and once all the sheets were in place, the transformation of the shed's acoustics was quickly moving into a very promising direction. As I previously mentioned, I took on the challenging task of hanging the ceiling sheetrock solo, and it was awful. It was truly awful and a horrible experience. I did not like it. Not 1 second of it. So of course, when it came to the walls, I opted for the ultimate tool in efficiency, my phone. Yes, you heard that right. A skilled crew swooped in, effortlessly hanging, mudding, and finishing the drywall at a pace that made my attempt seem like slow motion. While I initially craved the satisfaction of single-handedly accomplishing every aspect of this project, I humbly acknowledge that the art of drywall is far more intricate than it appears when watching these guys do it on YouTube. Just because you see it and you're like, oh man, that looks so easy. You have no idea. So, drywall complete, and with my enthusiastic wrecking crew in tow, we dove into the task of painting the sound shed over the next few days. However, I quickly discovered that paint calculators are not to be trusted. They're liars. All of them, especially when you're an idiot. You don't think about priming brand new drywall before you paint. Whatever the quantity they recommend, you're going to need a lot more than that. Especially if you're like me. You overlook the crucial step of priming all of that raw drywall before applying coats of paint. So essentially, I'm an idiot. And now I'm trying to blame the calculators for me being an idiot. Opting for Benjamin Moore's Wythe Blue, which imparts a charming mid-century vibe to the sound shed, I decided to get resourceful with leftover OSB. I could have splurged on fancy pants molding or trim, but in the spirit of thriftiness, I embraced the idea of utilizing what I already had on hand. And you know what? There's a certain humility to OSB that appeals to me. It's usually underestimated. It's like an ugly board, hidden from view. And to me, I don't know. I just like the idea of using something that most folks might neglect. So, with the shed walls and ceiling painted, the trim in place, we have a sound shed. In all of its glory, we are ready to move on to video number 2 as we dive into room modes, measurements, and begin the process of acoustic treatment. Thank you so much for hanging in there for this first video. I know this was a lot, covering the entire build of the shed. If you have any questions or you need to know any of the details that I might have forgotten, don't panic. Just ask a question down below, and I'll make sure I get to that as soon as possible. And with that, I'll see you sound shed loving audiophiles in the next video.